All right, welcome back 2D1. We are going to work on 1 point perspective, of course. This is part 4. Our goal is to learn how to create interior views on a solid form, as well as learning how to navigate prisms in 1 point perspective. Both of these skills should help anybody who is considering drawing any kind of housing or buildings in their summative. But just as anything else I've showed you so far, there's so many creative applications to this skill base. So even if that doesn't interest you, it's worth your time to learn these skills. We are going to use sort of a house concept in order to get this done. Although I'm not real married to that idea, we're gonna play around with it. We may put giant holes in your house that make no sense. So don't think of it as a perfect house. So let's get started. We're going to make a horizon line. You're welcome to use your ruler for that. I'm going to go ahead and ask that today you put your horizon line up a little higher. It's just going to give us more room to work. If I were to estimate how high that was, I'd say like 3 fingers width or something, roughly. And then put your vanishing point kind of more to the right of center. So here's center, and I'm going a little more to the right. Today, you're going to find that we're working mostly here on the paper. And if you were to try to reproduce our skills on your own over here or in the sky space, you would end up running out of room. So I would encourage you to do the demo with me on one piece of paper and then to go ahead and get a second piece of paper and do your own version afterwards without my help. That's the goal would be without watching the video on the second one. Then you put both side by side and send me a photo of that for your assignment when you submit it. All right, guys, so here we go. We are going to throw in here a solid house real quick, and I just want you to imagine some kind of shoebox shape. So I'm going to start with a horizontal over here on this part of the composition. Don't worry if yours doesn't match mine precisely, but try to aim for something similar. That way you can easily compare and know if you're on the right track. Notice that I have a lot of space up here. I'm trying not to make my house too high because I'm also planning to put a roof on it. All right, so that's the flat side of my house made of horizontals and verticals only. Now I'm going to project the depth of it towards my vanishing point. Nothing new here. We know how to do this. We are experts at this. Take your time. If I'm going too fast, you can always slow down the video in the settings as well. Okay, chop the form in the back. I'm going to chop it right about there. If you ever wondered, it doesn't matter which side you chop first as long as you get both of them connected. Sometimes I do one versus the other. I don't know why. All right, there's my box. So the next thing I want to do to this is teach you how to draw a prism. And a prism, if you're not sure, is basically what might remind you of a traditional camping tent. It's kind of like a rectangle on the bottom, but a triangle in the front. Something like that. So we're going to end up doing that here, but with a great deal of accuracy in 1 point rather than freestyling. So here's how you add a prism in 1 point. You could be doing this on the ground, by the way, with the exact same steps. You just would draw only this part first. We're going to add it on top of this to sort of create a house. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the center of this side of the form. And anytime you want to find the center of any side of the form, you make an X from corner to corner. suppose I should use my tool for that. So here's my X. This is a light line you would certainly not want to keep and show in the end. We call those process lines. They're necessary for the process, but we don't keep them. Once we've found the center, what we want to do next is project upward in a vertical nature. This is where you decide how tall you want your roof to be. I'm just making mine a random height that I feel like looks nice. You can make yours super tall and skinny or short. But again, if you want it to be similar to mine, that way you know if you're on the right track. That's not a bad idea at the beginning. I'm going to go about that high. This is also a process line, so you would do that lightly. This is the peak of my roof. So now I have to tie it down to the corners of my roof, my structure. Tying it down means just matching it to the corners. All right, so I have the front flat side that faces me done. Now what I'm going to do is give it depth. So I'm going to go from here to here. And just like you know about perspective already from other things we've done, you could go all the way, but you're going to end up erasing some eventually. So let's not go all the way. Let's go from here till we reach, oh, maybe there. That's probably plenty. Okay, the next step is going to be to find out where the peak is in the back. If we just eyeball it, we start throwing angles in there, it's going to look really funny. We might get close, but how do we know if it's there versus there versus there? There's so many angles it could be, right? And sometimes we think it looks good, but then someone else looks at it and they can tell something's wrong. So let's figure it out. There's a way to do this. You might remember we found the center of this side by putting an X through it. Now, if you really wanted to, you could go ahead and draw it transparency and then put an X there and then go up. But there's a shortcut. So what I would encourage you to do is make a little mental note here by putting a dot on this one, right here where your vertical line passed through your roof edge. And I want you connecting that towards your vanishing point. If you were to connect it all the way through, it would pass through the back wall right here. Okay, I'm going to make a dashed line just to show you, but you don't have to draw it all the way through. Okay. So it passed through at this spot on the back wall. So that is the matching location to this. That's the shortcut. So when we had this, what was our next step that we did? We went up vertically. So that's what we're going to do here. Go straight up vertically. Use your tool. Don't guess. You might as well do it right since everything else has been so accurate so far. Straight up. And now we have the top of our roof here matching the top of our roof here. And we can angle down without even thinking about it to here, as long as we have something straight to kind of connect our angle. Nice. If we wanted it to be transparent for some reason, of course we could match it here to that corner and get rid of anything extra at this point that you don't want. So if it's a solid house, which it is, then we're going to get rid of all these extra things. We're going to create a nice clean house. You can just erase it a little bit. You'll still see the ghosts of your old lines, and that's probably going to be a helpful thing for you moving forward to kind of clean it up. All right. So it's a real basic looking house, but you know, this is the nuts and bolts of how you get that done. If you ever wanted to, you could make the roof hang off the sides and then continue the process from there. So many variations. Real rooftops, in fact, don't peak like directly over the middle, so you could intentionally make it off to the side and then just follow that off, and then you have a roof that angles a certain direction. So a lot of variations you can play around with and experiment with later. Know how to do this as a standard way of drawing first and prove to me that you can do this. So this is one skill set I want you to show me you can do. The other skill set is drawing the interior of a solid. So you just did the prism. That was good. Now let's show that we can do the interior. The interior means that if I want to show inside the form, I would like you to know how to do that. It's going to require you to follow the rules of the surface though. Let me show you what I mean by that. In the past with our demos we've been doing, I always indicated that the verticals were vertical by using blue. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for this discussion we're about to have. I always did the converging lines with red. So there's our converging line, here, here, and here. And then we did horizontals with green. So obviously there's horizontals there and some on the inside there, but I don't think we're doing a transparent picture. Now what we didn't talk about is what to do with these random angles that we made up when we set the pitch of our roof. Those kind of are like wild cards. So they're their own thing. They follow their own rules. So I'm going to make them like a fun pink color. All right. So when we're adding a surface item to this, whether it's a door, a window, or something that we're just opening up like a giant garage door or entrance of any kind, we need to follow the rules of the surface. So I want to create a giant opening here just to show you what I mean. This surface here is made up of converging lines, right, and verticals. So if I were to use my tool, and I'm not going to be able to because I'm covering it with my other hand, but if I were to use my tool here, I would have to make sure that I have verticals creating the sides of my door, whether it's a giant door like the one I'm asking you to do here, or a tiny skinny normal sized door. Then for the top and bottom, I need to make sure that I'm copying these parts of the surface that converge to here. That's my pattern and I want to stick with it. All right. If it had been shut, I could continue doing like panels, like on a garage door, going to that. So we'll play around with those details later. But yes, everything on here that's meant to look flat needs to match the surface. So just to really send that home, I'm going to color code that so you can see that it matches the pattern of what it's resting on. Okay. Same thing here. If I want a window on that wall, let me see if I can show you. If I want a window on that wall, it's going to be made of verticals and horizontals only because that's what the wall is comprised of. So I'm going to do horizontals. What do I got here? Blue. Okay. I'm going to do verticals and horizontals. All right. Now, weird question. If for some reason I want to put something flat against the roof, like a weird window of some kind, again, what do? Follow the form of the roof. It has these converging lines going to the vanishing point, right? And then it has this angle, which is arbitrary. I chose that. So I'm just basically going to make this parallel. I'm going to run it parallel like railroad tracks. And now I have a surface there that matches. When I'm ready to break that rule and do something that doesn't match the surface, what I'm doing at that point is showing the interior. You're going to have to play around with this. It's going to look different on yours than mine. But you might want to say do a converging line in here towards the vanishing point. That would show the inside wall. If you did on this side a green line, a horizontal, that would give you the other wall. Same thing here. So guys, the more you play around with this, the more you can begin to break those rules and really see what it can do. Try drawing just this and show the inside if you can, and then if you have time, repeat it over here as well. Good luck, guys. Let me know if you have questions.